Good morning. I wanted to basically good morning. I wanted to basically go through and give you a quick tutorial of how to do the assignment that is the bonus assignment that we're working on. This assignment here, maps and humidity analysis. I kind of went over this last time, and I'm going to put this video right underneath here after we're done today. And I want to make sure you guys can kind of see how I want this posted. And it's nice that we already see that somebody has already posted here, which is great. And this was done very well. But I kind of want to show you how this map got in here and how I would structure your short answers here. So you can really get a good value. This was just a beautifully done map by Grace. And so I kind of want to walk through how I would do it. So what I would do is I would first go get my map, which I tell you here, the quickest way to go get it is to open up Google. So I'm going to stop, and I think this will just bounce right over. And that should, let's see, stop share. Let's make sure it's shared. Sure. Yeah, that should be what you're seeing. I put in exactly the search tool here, and when you put in maps and rainfall patterns, you could put in maps of evaporation, maps of thunderstorm activity, and you could very well get a real-time track, maps of vapor pressure. Think of some different terms maps of dew point temperatures around the United States. And you often will be able to get a whole series of pictures up. Like you could change your search string up here to a topic that may be of interest to you. But I'm using the exact one down here. I use maps of humidity and rainfall patterns, but you guys can make it relevant to a topic of interest to you in Unit 2. I found a map down here called average humidity, which is very kind of significant today on relative humidity. If we took on an average day, what would it look like? And, and you could kind of see typically over North America what average humidity patterns, and you can really see a distinct pattern. The darker greens and blues indicate the higher areas. And if I zoom into the map, that you can kind of see over the United States, there are areas where there's some distinct in North America, there's some distinct areas that are high. But if you look, the eastern and western half of the United States looks very different. Almost all of the east is around 70 to 80% in the 60s. So, you've got this pretty stable pattern of humidity around the eastern United States, which makes for more reliable and consistent rainfall over the eastern half. But over the western half of the United States, it's very, very different. Because of the north-south running mountains along the west coast, a lot of the evaporation coming in over the Pacific Ocean into the United States, it often doesn't penetrate very deep, and often the interior of the western United States, because of the mountains along the west coast piling up all the humidity on the windward side, it never reaches inland, and some of the areas out west are often high and dry and have much lower humidities, and that's why areas like Las Vegas and Phoenix. So this really explains why we see our desert and semi-arid desert environments cover much of the western United States, because most of the western United States, the humidity is actually water vapors piling up along the coast. So let's let's say I see I got this image, and I like this image because it has a date on there, or it has a source on there, and it's the name of a laboratory right there, and it has the person who produced the map. So there's a great way to reference and source. We know we often need to source. The only thing on here that I know I'm going to need is the website here doesn't really have the dates, that the years of data that was used to collect it. So that one there I might have to leave, but that's one of the questions. But all I got to do is hit copy, and I'm going to stop the share, and I'm going to go back to our class website, and I'm going to go back to share here, and I'm going to go back to our page. All I've got to do is hit reply and right click into here and hit paste. Okay? And all you have to do at this point is highlight the questions I put, right click and go copy, and underneath here just hit Control V or edit paste. I could go edit paste. I can't do that, so I'll have to just right click and go paste. And there are the questions. So what is the source? You know, I can see the source is the name of this agency is right there. I can put, it says what date or time. It was the date that was used was at least for 10 years of data was collected. It doesn't give me the date range, but they did base this on 10 years worth of averages. I would have liked to have seen that more than 30, but so I don't have the dates, but I do have the time frame. It was 10 years worth of data collected from weather stations all over the United States. Was it a local map, regional, or national map? I would say it was I would call it a national or regional map covering the United States and Canada or North America. Because it's more than national, because obviously it covers an entire continent with Canada as well. So we could probably call it regional. And what is the geographic analysis or implications of the data? And map, there's a typo there, I'll fix that. That needs to be a P. Indicate about the humidity and precipitation patterns. And that's where you go through there and you identify the low areas and you identify some of the high areas on the windward side of the western United States. And then you talk about how the eastern United States, because it's so flat in the eastern half of the United States, water vapor more equally gets distributed over the eastern half of the United States. And this is why we see the humidity patterns are more equally distributed, and that's why inevitably the rainfall is more consistently the same. This is why that area in Texas is so fascinating of where this flooding is occurring. Is this area of where we see the flooding occurring is actually in an interesting part of the country where you're transitioned from more of a wet area or a more humid area to a dry area. And this flooding environment is actually on the edge of almost a semi-arid desert environment. This is why Texas is so fascinating, because the western half of Texas is almost acting like a desert, and the eastern half of Texas is much more humid. And so this area that was hit really is on the boundary of a more humid eastern half of the United States, and it's on the boundary of the more western dry part of the United States. And that's why when we look at San Angelo, some of the areas in the news with the flooding this week is very, it's a very fascinating area, and that's why the people there sometimes really go from areas of droughts and streams almost drying up to areas with big rains and tropical events coming off the oceans, bringing in massive deluges of massive amounts of rains, like the one, with 20 to 30 inches of rain in a day. So you fill in underneath here. Often I like red or blue text, your answers. I really think question 4 is the one where you really show, can you read the map? And then as soon as you fill those in, you click reply, and you're done. And that's how you do it. There is my map, or there's my table of some of the humidity data that was collected shortly after the massive flooding event that hit the middle of Texas. And you got a nice model here of Brace's map. And so if you were to go back to the map. There are just tons of good maps in here that you could look at and analyze, or you could change your search topic to something of maps of thunderstorm risk. So maybe if you're somebody that wants to look at a real-time map, there are somewhere on the web where you could find a map indicating in real time what areas of the United States, and you can maybe analyze the map for patterns for evaluating that day, and you'll often see that there are certain areas that are often coming up as more frequent, like around Florida. So I just wanted you to see what I was expecting on this assignment. I'm going to post this video directly on the page so you guys could see what I'm looking for. And I just wanted to, I knew nobody was going to be on here, but I wanted to basically have this video done so you can have a better example if you're after these bonus points here. And I'd love to see some high quality maps produced with some really good analysis like Grace did. It's very helpful because you're going to see maps like that on the Unit 2 test. All right, thank you.